Imagine waking up tomorrow with no alarm, no emails, no boss waiting for you, no calendar filled with meetings. No commute, no deadlines. At first, it sounds like freedom, but after the excitement fades, one question remains. What would you actually do all day? It feels like a modern question. Yet for more than 99% of human history, every person who ever lived woke up without a job. No one had a profession. No one clocked in. There were no offices, factories, schools, or resumes. And yet somehow, our ancestors survived long enough to build every civilization that exists today. So what filled their days? Were they constantly fighting for survival? Did they spend every waking hour hunting animals and searching for food? Or is the truth something far more surprising? Picture the world 100,000 years ago. The sun rises over a vast landscape of grasslands, forests, rivers, and mountains. There are no roads cutting through the wilderness, no cities glowing in the distance. The only sounds are birds calling through the trees, insects humming in the morning air, and the footsteps of a small group of humans beginning another day. They don't know today's date because calendars do not exist. They don't know what time it is because clocks have not been imagined. The day begins when the light arrives and ends when darkness returns. The first task is simple. Look around. Is everyone safe? Did the fire survive the night? Are there fresh tracks near the camp? A broken branch or a set of footprints in the dirt could mean a predator passed nearby while everyone slept. Staying alive begins with paying attention. But this is where one of the biggest myths about ancient life begins to crumble. Most people imagine early humans living in endless panic, sprinting away from predators every few minutes. Reality was usually much quieter. Dangerous moments happened, but they were rare. Survival depended less on constant action and more on constant awareness. And that changes everything. Instead of rushing into a job, many mornings began slowly. Children played close to adults. Older people shared stories and knowledge. Some repaired tools worn down from previous days. Others prepared containers for carrying water or gathered wood before the heat became unbearable. Life was filled with countless small tasks, each one helping the group survive. Then something interesting happened. Not everyone left to hunt. Modern movies often show every adult male chasing giant animals while everyone else waited at camp. Archaeology and studies of modern hunter-gatherer societies paint a far more complex picture. Food came from many sources: fruits, roots, nuts, seeds, shellfish, honey, insects, fish. And small animals often provided a large share of daily calories. Large hunts were exciting, but they were unpredictable. Sometimes hunters returned with enough meat to feed everyone. Sometimes they returned empty-handed. The real secret wasn't becoming the best hunter. It was becoming the best generalist. Humans learned to eat almost everything. That single ability allowed our species to survive droughts, changing climates, disappearing forests, and unfamiliar lands. While many animals depended on one type of food, humans adapted. If berries disappeared, they searched for roots. If large animals migrated away, they caught fish. If hunting failed, gathering continued. The day was never divided into work and free time the way ours is today. Survival blended into conversation, learning, exploration, and family life. Imagine walking through a forest with experienced gatherers. Every tree tells a story. Every plant has a purpose. One root heals illness. Another causes sickness. One fruit is safe only during a certain season. Another becomes poisonous after heavy rain. This knowledge isn't written inside books. It lives entirely inside human memory. And that memory becomes the library of the tribe. But the real story begins here. Anthropologists studying hunter-gatherer communities noticed something unexpected. Many groups spent far fewer hours gathering food than modern people spend working. While the exact amount varied by environment and season, research suggested that basic food gathering and hunting often occupied only a few hours each day. The rest of the time wasn't wasted, it was invested. Children learned by watching instead of attending classrooms. Teenagers practiced skills through play. Adults crafted spears, baskets, clothing, shelters, and tools that would last for months. Elder members passed down stories explaining animals, weather, stars, rivers, and the history of the people themselves. Knowledge became the most valuable possession anyone could own. Because unlike food, knowledge never spoiled. Imagine sitting beside a fire after sunset. Sparks drift upward into a sky crowded with stars untouched by city lights. Someone begins telling the story of a dangerous river crossing from years before. Another explains where animals migrate after heavy rains. A child quietly listens. That child may repeat the same story decades later to another generation. Without realizing it, humans were creating something extraordinary: culture. No other species on Earth had ever carried information across generations with such precision. And once knowledge survived longer than the people who discovered it, evolution itself began moving faster than biology ever could. But there was another invisible force shaping every hour of the day: cooperation. A lone human in the wilderness was vulnerable. A group of 30 people became remarkably resilient. Someone injured their leg, others shared food. A mother cared for a newborn, grandparents helped watch older children. Hunters failed, gatherers still brought home edible plants. Success belonged to the group, not the individual. That idea feels strangely unfamiliar today. Modern work often rewards competition. Ancient survival rewarded cooperation. Sharing wasn't generosity, it was insurance. One day you returned with meat. The next day someone else did. No one knew whose luck would change tomorrow. Then came one of humanity's greatest inventions. Not the spear, not the bow. Conversation. Language transformed ordinary activities into coordinated plans. Instead of reacting to danger, humans could prepare for it. Instead of following animals, they predicted where they would appear days later. Instead of simply remembering, they imagined. For the first time in Earth's history, creatures could build futures that didn't yet exist. Every discussion beside a fire quietly reshaped tomorrow. But something even stranger happened. People began doing things with no immediate survival value. They decorated their bodies, painted cave walls, carved tiny figures, played music, danced together, buried their dead with care. At first glance, these seem like luxuries, yet they may have been essential. Art strengthened identity, music synchronized groups, rituals created trust, stories preserved memory. These invisible activities helped humans cooperate on a scale never seen before. Civilization did not begin with cities. It began around campfires. Now imagine an ordinary afternoon. Children chase each other between trees, unknowingly practicing balance, speed, and coordination that may one day save their lives. Adults sharpen stone blades while laughing over stories from earlier hunts. Someone experiments with tying a sharper stone to a wooden shaft. Another notices a different way of weaving plant fibers into stronger rope. Innovation isn't happening inside laboratories. It's happening during everyday life. Small improvements accumulate, generation after generation, until eventually simple tools become astonishing technologies. But then something changed. Around 12,000 years ago, in several parts of the world, humans began staying in one place. Instead of following food, they started growing it. Agriculture seemed like an incredible breakthrough. Fields replaced forests. Villages expanded. Food production increased. Populations exploded. But the daily rhythm of life changed forever. For the first time, work became tied to land. Fields demanded endless attention. Seeds had to be planted at exactly the right moment. Weeds removed, crops protected, harvests stored, animals managed. Missing a season could mean starvation. The flexible days of hunter-gatherers slowly transformed into predictable cycles of labor. And with larger communities came entirely new responsibilities. Someone counted grain. Someone organized irrigation. Someone settled disputes. Someone collected taxes. Slowly, jobs were born, not because humans suddenly loved working, but because civilization required specialization. Blacksmith, builder, merchant, soldier, farmer, priest. Each role made society stronger. Yet each role also moved humans one step further away from the lifestyle that shaped our brains for hundreds of, thousands of years. Perhaps that's why so many people today feel strangely disconnected. Our bodies evolved walking across landscapes, solving unpredictable problems, working with close-knit communities, learning through observation, and spending evenings surrounded by conversation instead of glowing screens. Modern life offers comfort beyond anything our ancestors could imagine. But comfort came with routines evolution never prepared us for. Hours spent sitting, artificial light replacing sunsets, schedules replacing seasons, notifications replacing birdsong. The difference is staggering, and yet traces of our ancient lives remain hidden inside us. Why do long walks clear the mind? Why does sitting around a campfire feel peaceful even to someone who has never slept outdoors? Why do stories capture our attention more than raw facts? Why do children naturally learn through play before anyone teaches them how? The answers stretch back tens of thousands of years. Your brain still carries the fingerprints of that world. Even your friendships reflect it. Most humans naturally maintain only a limited number of close social relationships, remarkably similar to the size of ancient bands that lived together for generations, long before cities. Our minds evolved to recognize familiar faces, build trust, remember favors, and cooperate within communities small enough that everyone mattered. The office may be modern. The mind inside it is ancient, and perhaps the strangest realization of all is this. Ancient humans didn't separate life from work. Finding food, telling stories, raising children, making tools, exploring new places, laughing with friends, and teaching the next generation were all woven into the same day. There was effort, there was danger, there was hardship, but there wasn't the invisible line we draw today between living and making a living. For hundreds of thousands of years, existence itself was the occupation. Every sunrise brought uncertainty. Every sunset brought another story. And somewhere inside the routines of our modern lives, beneath calendars, careers, and crowded cities, the echoes of those ancient days are still waiting. Because the next time you wonder what you would do without your job, remember this. For almost all of human history, nobody had one, yet they still woke each morning with purpose. The question isn't how they filled their days. The question is whether we have forgotten what those days were really for.